Business correspondence relates to the official means by which organizations, companies, businesses, and individuals communicate with each other. It is important that every graduate from every university should have the basic letter writing skills for professional and career growth. Think about the last time you wrote a letter. Was it personal or business? What about the last time you received one? Was it personal or business? The question we should ask ourselves then is, does the physical letter still have a place in this electronic age? Although email is taking over all aspects of official correspondence, the letter still occupies an important place. Among other functions of a letter, the letter still represents an official legal record. It is most recognized and approved by many businesses and individuals. It bears the image of the sender, whether business or individual, and it is one of the most formal means of business communication. So in this unit, by the time we complete our study, you should be able to explain the different parts of a letter, use the different letter formats for different purposes, and use acceptable communication principles, that is, ethical principles in letter writing. The parts of a letter. A letter should have a heading, that is the sender's address. That's number one. Number two, there should be a date line, that is the place where you write the date. Number three, the receiver's address. Number four, the salutation, such as Dear Mr. Banda. Number five, the letter should have a body of 3 to 4 paragraphs. Number six, there should be a complimentary clause in the letter, which could be sincerely yours, regards. Number seven, your letter should have a signature. Number eight, if there are any enclosures or attachments that you want to add to the letter, you should have enclosure written at the bottom of the signature, or abbreviated as ENCL full stop and then colon. In parentheses, you can indicate what you are enclosing, such as a research report. Number nine, if there are other people who are receiving this letter, then you should have what is called a copy notation, what we call CC, which indicates who else is receiving the letter. So those are the different parts of a letter, and every letter should at least have these parts, especially number 1 to number 7. Number 8 and number 9, depending on who is receiving the letter, could be optional. Objective number 2, you should use different letter formats. There are 3 types of letter formats that you can choose. The first is what we call the fully blocked letter, where every sentence is flashed to the left. That means your date, your addresses, your paragraphs, your complimentary clause, your signature, and everything else should start on the left margin. So everything is flashed left, and all the paragraphs are spaced in between. Number 2, we have what is called the modified block letter. The address, that is the sender's address, and the date are at the center of the page. The receiver's address and the salutation are not indented, meaning they start on the left margin. The paragraphs, however, can be indented or not, depending on the writer's preference or what your organization wants. The complementary clause and the writer's name should be indented or centered, just like the sender's address and the date. That is the modified block format. The third is the semi-blocked format, where the paragraphs are always indented. The alignment of all the details, such as the addresses, the dates, the complementary clause, and the writer's names, these are always indented in a semi-blocked format. Objective number 3, you should use acceptable and ethical communication principles. What we mean by this is that choose good vocabulary for your letters. Avoid words with double meanings, what we call ambiguous words. Always check your use of technical vocabulary. Your audience should always determine the kind of vocabulary you're going to use. Although important, idioms may cause a misunderstanding, so try to avoid idioms by all means in your official letters. Also check your use of metaphors, acronyms, contractions, and abbreviations. Make sure the reader knows what you are talking about. Check your units or your choice of units of measurements. Do not assume that your reader will understand what you're talking about. So by units of measurements here, I'm talking about distance, weight, volume, temperature, and others. So you decide, for example, if your reader is familiar with Celsius or Fahrenheit. Select the most appropriate tone and style. This is how you word or write your message. Adopt a professional tone and style depending on who your recipient will be. Remove and avoid sexist language in your writing. For example, instead of saying cameraman, you can use photographer. Instead of saying mankind, you can use humanity or human beings. Instead of saying policeman, you can say police officer. Still on the idea of sexism, check your use of pronouns. For example, it is recommended that every student wears his mask at all times. His is a pronoun and it is sexist in this sense because it assumes that everyone is male when some students could be female. So those are important communication issues that you should be aware as you draft your letter.